Has there ever been a case where you received advice from your elders where you felt like, wow, that was really good? Or
random people joke like, lawyer ladki. Unka, haan, main nahi hoongi oppress.
Anything or any skill you're trying to build or any objective or goal you're trying to meet, that you must take out time and set goals for yourself. That
he told my dad there are like 7 IAS officers in Rajasthan, and you know what's common? Like 6 of them are divorced. So if you so I was home yesterday and this auntie came to my place and she was like, oh, you've gotten so skinny. And then my mom was like, yeah, she's going to the gym, so she's a bit toned now. And she's like, शादी से पहले कर लो जितना जिम करना है, उसके बाद तो वही है घर पे रहना, responsibilities. And I'm like people make you feel that once you get married your life is gonna get over and you'll just have these responsibilities and you just have to take care of people around you and you'll have no time for yourself, you'll lose your sense of self, and that's just so sad.
do you feel this is for women in particular, would you say?
I think so, because there's so much that women have to do. They have to leave their entire they have to leave their house and they have to stay at somebody else's place, and it's like being in an organization. Like you go there and you have to sort of mold yourself to fit in that environment. I think marriage is sort of look like that. I'm not sure if it is like that, but people make you feel that it's going to be that.
It's definitely like that, because if you think about it, what lifestyle change does usually a man have? Usually, in the more traditional setup, it's not like they have to change where they live, change who they live with, except add another person. The burdens to adjust is on the new person.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. It's like leading up to the marriage, there is emphasis on, your appearance and making yourself look as good as you can, like for the wedding and everything. And then afterwards, your value is derived from maybe how useful you are to the household, right? Your contributions as far as a caretaker is concerned.
Like so many people tell women that, oh, the shadi is close, you have to lose weight now. You have to look better in that lehenga.
Don't lose more weight.
No. For me, it was the opposite. I've been body shamed all my life, and for me, it was, oh, gain weight. You have to carry a baby. Do you think you can do that with with how you are right now? So yeah, it was the opposite for me.
It's so interesting. I think people in our lives, especially interestingly, women in our lives, feel compelled to share a lot of unsolicited advice sometimes to us, and I can understand they really are well-meaning when they say these things, and yet sometimes it's really good advice and sometimes perhaps it's a little bit outdated or it doesn't apply to our context anymore, and sometimes it's good advice and we think it's bad advice but later it turns out to be good advice. So I've had a lot of situations where people have told me things and I've disregarded and I realized later that it's they were right in the first place.
On the topic of appearance and sometimes people trying to be well-meaning, I remember this random neighbor auntie. I don't know how it came up. Laser came up. How laser hair reduction. And I just went I'm sick of getting my moods removed all the time. I want to get this lasered off. And she goes very emphatically to my mother, who was also in the room, that शादी से पहले face पे laser नहीं touch कराना है. What? And her reasoning was, again, trying to be well-meaning. She's like, I knew of a girl where laser went bad and her face got burnt. Yeah, something bad. And then she's like, she wasn't able to get married, or it was difficult for her to get married. So she's like, शादी से पहले बिल्कुल laser face पे नहीं touch करवाना है, शादी के बाद करवाना है. I was young at that point. This is a few years ago. So the concept of marriage wasn't even on my mind when I'm making decisions. So I never think of, if I do this, will I not be marriageable anymore or stuff like that. But the fact that a woman's appearance is so deeply
Prized.
Yeah, that if there's a scar on your face, and not to defend that, this comes from a lot of history. Maybe back in the day it was impossible for people, I don't know, it was just very absurd to me, and I'm sure very well-meaning, but
There's always been this weird obsession with appearance, particularly for women, but I think for both.
I think it's more for women.
That, to really work on your appearance as a way to increase your value in the dating marketplace. And I've received so much advice over the years, even when I'm not looking for a life partner, right? Like when I'm a teenager, when I'm in my 20s, and people suggesting to lose weight and suggesting hair removal. I think, straighten your hair and like dress in a certain way. Like, I mean, I've got advice to dress more conservatively, less conservatively, be more promiscuous, be less, you know what I mean? And it's also contradictory. Maybe people mean it in the sense that men are visual creatures, and when selecting their partners, they do take appearance into consideration. At the same time, first of all, beauty is so ephemeral. It'll go so quickly. It really doesn't last, and it's really the least important thing, truthfully, in a meaningful, fulfilling relationship. And number two, it's so subjective, like you said. One person can really celebrate and appreciate another's beauty. It just varies from person to person. So I don't know, it's really important to not try to change yourself too much, I feel, in pursuit of someone to like you. When if they didn't like you the way you looked to begin with, then maybe they weren't the one anyway.
Even in that movie, Main Hoon Na, so this guy's not interested in Amrita Rao at all, and then she just changes her appearance, wears a salwar kameez, straightens her hair, and suddenly like
I feel very attacked. I have been told my curly hair are not desirable, and it's been a lot of unlearning for me to accept it. But
Exactly.
Yeah.
The beauty's ideal.
Yeah, but then literally like changes herself, and everybody's interested in her now.
Glasses.
Yeah, they hate glasses. And they hate I think smart women. women who can read. They hate women who can read.
It's a problem. Don't get too educated. Your pool
Oh
will
my
reduce.
god, one of the uncles, he told my dad there are like 7 IAS officers in Rajasthan, and you know what's common? Like 6 of them are divorced. So if you
I'm so
Women?
sorry.
yeah, women
Oh,
IAS
female,
officers.
okay.
Yeah, like female IAS officers, and they're all divorced because they're so successful, because they're so educated. It's hard for them to like stay married. So I was going to the UK, and he literally came to my place to tell my father like, don't send her, she's gonna come back, and then she can't like maintain relationships after that because she's gonna be too educated for the men in her life.
or teach your men to respect and want.
And like his daughter was in the UK,
Okay,
and then he found a man there.
What
I think it's also like when their kids don't listen to them, they feel the need to like go to somebody else's. Like
random people who have nothing to do with, but you can see that you have a child who doesn't listen to you, and you feel the need to come and police me. Police is not the word, but give me advice.
कि कोई तो सुन लो.
हाँ, नहीं सुनना, आपके बच्चे एक reason से नहीं सुनते.
It's either their kids or it's either their own life also, right? Like if they're trying to live vicariously through the like young generation because they wish they had done it differently, or they wish that they had a better marriage.
Actually, before this video, I was thinking about what to say, and I felt like very grateful that at least the adult figures in my life close to me have given me, if unsolicited, good advice. So I was thinking of like what has been very important in my last few years that helped me shape my approach to relationships, marriage. So I remember one of my cousins and her mom, my mommy, she told me something very profound and very simple. So they said that, like individually they said this very separately, but interestingly, like apple doesn't fall far from the tree. They gave the same advice at different points. Because we were talking about relationships, what mommy and my cousin said was that all it takes is one person for it to be the one. You don't, every failed relationship, it's kind of okay. And I was a little baffled by that. I'm like, but it's so much heartbreak. I don't like it. I don't like the process. They were just like, you just need it to work out once. Think of every relationship that didn't work out as data points for what you don't want in a partner. So every relationship that didn't work out is a step closer to the one, quote unquote. And I don't believe in the one as a mystical concept of, they're out there and you have to find them. Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's about finding a person you adore and making them the one. That's my personal view, but that advice was I think a lot of young people want to hear it because the heartbreak when you're in it, it's so hard because you just keep wondering why is this happening to me? Why? Why can't I be happy? Why can't I have the one? Why is it not happening sooner? It's not happening for a reason, and you need it to happen only once, and every bad relationship leads you to realize what you want.
Interestingly, when we meet a new girlfriend, for example, we don't go into the meeting thinking, oh, this is going to be the maid of honor at my wedding. This is going to be my best friend forever. I just go in saying, hey, I've met a new person. That's really interesting. But it's funny that we go into meeting romantic partners and start sort of fantasizing about the long term. Oh, this may or may not be my husband. Like, oh, maybe this is a friend. Maybe this is a future, I don't know, co-founder. Like, maybe not put so much pressure. And see it as like an exercise in just exploration.
On that note, I just thought of a very interesting, maybe different from the video point, that I think our generation is the very first one to even do this exercise. Maybe your parents may be an exception to that, but most of the parents in our, in my friend circle, in the generation above us, didn't have the privilege, so to speak, to choose. When I say choose, not just like look at their photo and their bio data and meet them once or twice or a couple of times. Really get to know them and then make a decision. Since we were thinking of advice, I went to Rahul and Sanya, who, Rahul, our Verona founder, and I just generally conversationally asked that, what is the correct way to do that? They didn't give me a framework that look at ABC or XYZ. They're like, people don't know what those things are. So spend some time thinking about those things. Spend some time figuring out what are the things you want to find out about your partner, what are your deal breakers, what are your must-haves. I mean, this is an exercise someone above us has never done, at least in my family. Like, it was never a thing. But now we actually sit down and think. I'm like, okay, I want my partner to have ABC traits.
Oh, it was like, oh, they have so much land. I think it's a safe bet. Khush rahegi.
No one cared about the temperament of the person, right? Like, now we think of that. No one cared about compatibility. No one cared about values.
I think there was less research also done into that space. Like, even if our parents did have love marriages, it wasn't so thought out meticulously. It was like, okay, in retrospect, it worked out really well, but maybe we didn't have a checklist, or we didn't know exactly what we were looking for, and they didn't overstructure it, or they didn't structure it that well, I should say.
And on that checklist point, someone also told me that be sure about what you call a deal breaker is actually a deal breaker. Yeah, and be sure about what you call your must-have is also that. Like, Sanya literally said this. She's just like, I've seen relationships where very dumb things, and she's very blunt, and I love that. Yeah, like, I love how honest she was. She's like, very dumb things they call deal breakers, and it just makes no sense to make that your deal breaker. And then you let go of a relationship that could have, been something much greater. So that exercise, while you have that autonomy, that agency, exercising that in a smart way is very important. And I don't know what a smart way to do that is, so I'm at a loss.
I think it's an exercise in introspection, like just really deeply being super honest with yourself, right? Like, sometimes there are things we convince ourselves that we want, but it's not necessarily what we actually want. So being radically candid with yourself. So I think we get a lot of mixed advice. Has there ever been a case where you've received advice from your elders where you felt like, wow, that was really good or very helpful, or maybe you realized it later that, yeah, actually that made a lot of sense, even if I wasn't able to accept it at the time?
Just some good advice. Like, my father has been somebody who always wanted me to be like independent, like in all sense, like financially and otherwise as well. So he made sure, like at a very young, I was like 18, 19. So he made sure he taught me how to ride a bike, how to. Chandra, what is that face?
Oh no,
She doesn't mean cycle. She means
A bike.
like, this was only because I thought you meant a bicycle.
No.
And I was like, you were 19 and that's independence.
So he taught me how to ride a bike. It was a Splendor, not a bicycle.
At that age makes you very independent. No, you don't have to rely.
That's what he said. Like, you don't have to rely on any man to like take you somewhere. So you should know how to ride a bike, how to ride a cycle, a scooty, a car, everything. And even like financially, he was like always like, take care of your finances yourself and learn how to invest. Again, like, never rely on a man. If you want something, just go and get it.
Or
you don't
anyone.
have to. Anyone. Yeah.
Similar to that, I think my mom just always pushed me to prioritize my education, and that to her was a proxy of exactly what you're saying. And she always said that, yes, like, if you're educated, you don't ever have to rely on someone for your daily roti, kapda, makan, like, as they put it. It was just like, be in a position that you know how to survive. Yeah. So she was very... Exactly, take care of yourself. I mean, obviously that was the base level.
100%.
Yeah, she really pushed me all my life. Like, it was never a conversation, even now at home, to, like, my end goal in life was not to get married. It could be part of the journey, but in some ways, maybe my end goal was to have a career. So that was nice because that pushed me to think about life at a larger level and, you know, value my education, value my independence, work.
I think I saw it in a movie. She said your work is never gonna get up one day and decide to leave you. Yeah.
Your degree
Yeah.
won't break up with you.
That said, obviously life is holistic. It's not just your job or your education that takes you anywhere. Family is important, getting married is important. I mean, if it is important to you, we're still Verona.
Yeah, I was gonna say the advice that my mom gave, which I haven't decided if it's good advice yet, is to start early. And when she said that, I was, of course, very resistant because my whole family has always prioritized my education, my career. My professional development was never an option. It was always very, very important. Only when I turned 25, 26, that's when my parents have just encouraged me to start thinking very, very intentionally and deliberately about this decision. And she said just this past weekend, she told me the runway is long. And I was like, what does that mean? And she said that, look, if you want to get to where you want to be in a timely fashion, the runway is long. Like, it's kind of a long road to ultimately, like, settle in and get married, etc. And we want you to take time. We don't ever want you to feel rushed for whatever reason. So only for that purpose, only for your peace of mind, you might as well start earlier as far as intentional dating is concerned, right? And I think they're aware, and I also had my phase where I was not so intentional about anything and I was more just going off my heart. But they said, okay, like, if this is something you genuinely want in your life, number one, start early, and number two, like, invest genuine time and energy into it. She said, you know, a lot of people think it's just gonna happen, and for a lot of people it does sometimes just fall into place who are really lucky. But she said, you know, it's just like anything or any skill you're trying to build or any objective or goal you're trying to meet, that you must take out time and set goals for yourself, that, you know, I'm going to try and meet one new person this month, you know, and really get to know them and schedule it into your already busy schedule, because it's so easy to get busy in work and in your personal life, your social life, that you don't prioritize this. So these were a couple of pieces of advice that I've heard, and maybe I'm slowly ready to accept soon, but
No, I think that is good advice.
it's good.
Yeah.
I like how her mom phrased it. She's like, if that's something you want, you should spend some time, like, you know, working towards it.
Because just like to have a better outcome for yourself, you don't want to feel like, oh shit, I wish I had started this earlier. I wish I had given myself more time. Or
Yeah, you need to find a balance between, you know, like getting married young and thinking, oh, I missed out so much, and being like of certain age and thinking, oh, you know, I have to settle down now. I just need to find a guy now.
right. People say like you'll find it when you least expect it, or you'll find it when you finally stop looking and not exuding this like desperation either, that you know, I have to and I'm so desperately looking for someone. But it's a balance, like you said. Like, you can't also just say, okay, when I least expect it, so now I'm not expecting anything.
not
let me
leaving
just
my house.
let me just stay in my house.
My Prince Charming will come to my room, pull me out, and say, "You're." I find that very funny.
Your shoe.
But for that, sorry, she still went out for the ball.
What I was gonna say is that it is kind of a game of chance a little bit, and it is kind of a numbers game. So like, the more times you do put yourself out there, the more likely you are to get lucky.
Yes.
Right? Like, you think, okay, so and so got lucky, but they were also putting themselves in situations where they could potentially meet people. Even like down to choosing where you live. Like, she had, I was thinking about moving my apartment, and she was like, think about where you live, you know. And I was like, yeah, okay, commute, distance to work. And she was like, no, like, what kind of people are gonna live around there, right? Those are the people you are gonna interact with. Maybe they'll be your neighbors, they'll be your people. Make sure that they are the right people. So like, I've never thought about it so strategically, you know. But there's more to it than you think.
I was just thinking, like, we get most of our stories like, oh, this auntie told me, you know, and obviously, like, I don't think a lot of uncles would come and tell you something about like your appearance. Or
I hope not. It's bad enough their wives are doing it.
But I just want to know, like, do men also get such unsolicited advice from uncles or aunties?
I don't know about advice, but I can think of one thing. Like, of course, women have it bad in our own ways, as we've been discussing. But for men, there is this, at least this is something one of my friend's brothers, when we were again chatting over dinner when I was at her house, he mentioned this. He's like, I don't think you understand the kind of pressure I have to build my career. I paused for a second and I was like, He's like, you guys do it because you want to. As it's problematic, but it's true. Society doesn't, it's also really messed up that is the case, but society doesn't expect us to have a career and make a life. Our parents might, our families might, we might, but if we don't, it's socially acceptable. Yeah, so he's just like, I don't have an option to even think about anything but this. And my worth is valued on my number. Yeah. And he just went like, my CTC is directly correlated to market value. And it was a little sad, like, when I thought about it from his perspective or just generally men's perspective, that is true. And then the pressure is very different. Like I saw that at one of the family weddings, the so-called, unmarried person in the family, some random uncle screamed and said, the most eligible bachelor is here. And I was just like, so embarrassing. I don't think they would do that to a woman, probably. Scream it out loud and be like, most eligible ladki is here. I don't know. Like the pressure is very different for a man to build their career, to have money, to be an eligible bachelor. I don't know.
I think men's market value is correlated to their potential ability to provide for a family and support a family. And for women, it's appearance. Fertility.
How do they test that?
How many babies are you gonna pop out? Does she have the birthing hips or not? The birthing hips.
Even like straight hair, it's a sign of fertility.
But beauty ideals are also reflected.
Yeah, exactly.
My insecurity has gone to another level.
These beauty standards have come from, how fertile she is. So like if she has really good skin, it means like
she's healthy. She's in good health.
Yeah. Right? And then she can like have babies. So everything relates to that. You're like a baby making factory in the end.
Oh, that's true.
I think that the pressure is different but bad for both the genders. 100%. And in some ways, like, no one gives a shit about how much you earn in the marriage market as a woman. Maybe in some ways it goes against you.
It cuts your pool down.
And they're like, oh, this woman makes so much money. Oh, will my son feel I don't know, emasculated is not the right word, but like...
Or like, is it okay for her to be earning more than him, right? Like in many scenarios, a guy would not be okay with that. Mm-hmm. And as a result, your pool gets smaller because anyone who's earning less than you is kind of out. But which is also a good thing. I mean, I think as much as one up-levels themselves, sure, the pool gets smaller and the quality gets better. Like you said. So, there may be fewer people who are at your caliber, at your standard, but they'll also be the right people.
Yes, absolutely. I truly think so. I think like the more I don't want to say wait, but people have had time to work on themselves. Like, I know I'm a better person now than I was 5 years ago. And I think the more time it's obviously person to person. Some people don't work on themselves. They're a hot mess at 30.
And you can also work on yourself in a relationship too.
Yes.
It's not you don't have to just be single.
Yeah.
But any other, like this meal point is very interesting. Do you guys...
From a guy's perspective?
Yeah. What advice?
Because we're so qualified to talk about it.
Let me tell you.
Camera.
Isn't this what male podcasters do all the time? Just a separate note. They just talk about women's experiences. So anyway.
No, sorry. At least we say we may not be qualified to say so.
At least we're aware.
Instead of being like, I'm the authority on this.
I think men are also conditioned to be very, again, like I think we're all taught to put on some kind of a performance, but men's conditioning is very like, oh, you should go up to her, you should talk, you must necessarily go talk to her, or oh, you should, not be super sweet and affectionate and loving or sensitive, like be strong, be that, bad boy energy. Like I think sometimes they probably get influence or advice, probably from culture, from pop culture, movies, music, that makes them think that nice guys finish last. That the nice guy doesn't always end up with the girl, but it's the one who was that go-getter, or was the one who was the bad boy who won out in the end, when in reality, sure, in dating that might be attractive for women on a surface level maybe at earlier stages. But when women are looking to settle down for the long haul, universally, every woman I've talked to has said, I want stability, I want a calm person, I want someone who's kind,
sensitive,
composed, emotionally intelligent, right? And these are qualities that I think are discouraged sometimes when men are growing up. And that's so unfortunate. I think now we're at a stage in our society where we can start unlearning this like toxic masculinity and start embracing the fact that all genders have both sides within them, right? And you can just embrace that.
That's why I love your Bua's advice when she says like marry a sensitive man.
Oh, did she say that?
I think a lot of millions of people saw that. That said, I think I will. I think I'll marry my sensitive man. He's such a sweetheart.
Yeah, and I think even as women, like we're sort of conditioned to seek out, you know, he's just being mean to you because he likes you, right? And we hear this all the time on the playground, like, okay, he pulled your pigtails because he actually has a crush on you. And so somewhere deep in our subconscious was an entrenched idea that, you know, if he's mean to me, it's like he secretly likes me, not that he actually doesn't respect me at all, you know what I mean? And I'm just chasing after this person. So, you know, hopefully we can move past that. And hopefully I would expect our culture to soon reflect a more evolved position, more effeminate, more metrosexual men in movies being desirable and being the hero and being the star.
That's the thing. These traits, being effeminate, is the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally feminine
Yeah.
characteristics. I understand that that's flawed logic, but
Yeah, but I feel you have to be secure enough to show that side.
yeah. It comes down to working on your relationship with yourself, having confidence that you are worthy the way you are, not because you ride a motorcycle or have a leather jacket or because you're mean to other people and tear them down.
You're never cool if you do that.
Being mean is not cool, you guys. Don't be a bully. And it's also not attractive to women.
If it's attractive, then like two shitty people should probably be together. Don't procreate if you're bullies. Not advice, but I've had some random people joke like, lawyer hai, lawyer ladki. उनका हाँ मैं नहीं होंगी oppress.
उसको तो rights पता है, and that's a problem.
Yeah, it's just always also, I mean, we touched on this earlier, but how women like perpetuate a lot of very harmful or very restrictive, oppressive kind of narratives. Internalized, right? And they want to feel like, well, if I had to go through this, then so do they.
Yeah, I've heard like women are the flag bearers of patriarchy.
Certainly, certainly in India too, like the mother-in-law trope, archetype. Like I was thinking about that movie, Rocky Rani, where, you know, that grandmother Jai Bachchan was basically the daughter-in-law who wanted to run this business, then did do that, and then in turn treated her own daughter-in-law very harshly.
I really liked that movie on a very different note. I think it was a nice comedic take to
Gender roles.
Yes, and the new context. No one spoke of intercultural difference in education, women being more educated. These are very new themes.
More successful.
Yeah, I really liked that movie.
Advice comes from all directions, all the time, whether invited or not. What's most important is to know what to filter and how to apply those in your own life, and to do so in a very authentic way to your own story. And ultimately, no one in this earth will know you better than yourself. No one is going to advocate for yourself better than you. So I think self-knowledge here is of utmost importance.
Yeah.
And advice, take it or leave it.
I mean, you'll know like what is good advice, what is bad advice, what you want to follow, what you want to just leave when you know yourself really well. Like self-awareness is the key.
And that's where your gut and your intuition will also serve you.